The sound was wrong, not like a bang, not like thunder. It was lower, thicker, like the earth letting go of something it never meant to hold. At 11:25 a.m. on a quiet Monday, people outside turned their heads. Then, dust, concrete, bodies, a roar that drowned out the city. A building folded in on itself in seconds. No one had time to scream. It was March 15th, 1986. The Hotel New World, 6 stories tall, 36 rooms, a restaurant, a bank, a nightclub, stood in the heart of Singapore's Little India district. A concrete block surrounded by fruit stalls and bus stops. The morning was ordinary. Staff made their rounds. Bank tellers counted cash. Cooks prepared lunch in the kitchen below. Guests checked out at the front desk. The only warning came moments before the fall, when a ceiling fan on the top floor began to rattle, then detach. By the time it hit the ground, the building was already falling. In less than 60 seconds, Hotel New World was gone. People on the street stared at an empty cloud where a building had just stood. Cars were buried under slabs of concrete. Steel bars jutted into the air like broken bones. The screams came next, muffled, from under the wreckage. The collapse was total. Floor by floor, the building pancaked downward, crushing the spaces beneath. There were 50 people inside. Rescue workers arrived within minutes. But the pile was unstable, hot, pressurized. They tried to dig, by hand, by crowbar, by broken door frames. Every foot forward risked more collapse. One man shouted that his wife was inside. Another claimed to hear children crying. The smell of dust and blood was everywhere. The authorities feared it would take weeks. They had 5 days. Inside the rubble, time stopped. A hotel clerk lay pinned under a concrete slab, unable to move. Somewhere nearby, 2 workers trapped in the restaurant kitchen had only a pocket of air and no light. The screams were distant, hollow, as if the building had swallowed the people inside. Rescuers worked non-stop. Volunteers tore into the wreckage without gear. Oxygen tanks were rushed in, steel rods cut by hand. It was humid. Rain came and went, and still no one left. They found the first survivor after 48 hours, a woman, barely alive, pressed between 2 walls that hadn't quite crushed each other. Engineers were stunned. The collapse wasn't caused by an earthquake. It wasn't a fire. It wasn't terrorism. It was math. The building had no structural foundation. When it was constructed in 1971, the original contractor, who later vanished, had miscalculated the building's weight. The concrete floors were too heavy for the support beams. No reinforcements had been added. For 15 years, the hotel had stood balanced on the edge of failure, and all it took was a faulty air conditioning unit on the roof, vibrating just enough to trigger the fall. A death sentence from day one. One by one, survivors were pulled out. A man lost both legs. A mother died shielding her child, who was rescued 2 days later. A pair of friends trapped in the stairwell were found holding hands. Some had been calling out from beneath 3 stories of concrete and were still alive, but many were not. By the end, 33 people were dead. Only 17 survived. Singapore rewrote its building codes. Structural engineers were now required to certify all designs. Inspections were tightened. The city vowed it would never happen again. But the hole in the ground where the hotel once stood took years to forget. Thank you for listening to Road to Ruins. Subscribe for more true stories where systems fail and people pay the price.